Pooja, can you start the beginning?
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah, I start.
yeah, I think we are live.
Yes, we are live, Subbu. Pooja,
Yeah,
you
please
can
Okay.
start
start.
from there.
Okay. All right. Okay. Welcome to Joomla Next March 2023. Joomla Next is a virtual event series initiated by Techjoomla to open up a new world of possibilities through insightful sessions from thought leaders of Joomla. We aim to create a platform that connects Joomla enthusiasts to share best practices, ideas, and insights to build websites and powerful online applications with Joomla. We started this with the launch of Joomla 4.0 in the month of August 2021, and it's been an amazing journey so far. We had made alternate monthly, we have been getting the series where we discuss some insightful topics related to Joomla. And today we are fortunate to have leaders and domain experts across different corners of the globe, like Grant Patrick, Phil, Tim, Laura, Peter, Robbie, to name a few. Um Today, for this Joomla Next series, we have Heinz Papenberg with us, who is also the team lead for Joomla Bug Square. Over to you.
Yep. I'm currently the leader of the Joomla Bug Squad. In the past, I've been leader of the automated testing team. And maybe I should simply start my presentation because my former role as leader of the automated testing team is the reason why I'm speaking here today. Because in Joomla 4 we did some major quality improvements which I'd like to share with you, and which I'd like to offer you to use in your own setups and in your own developments. I'm Hannes Papenberg from Münster, Germany. I'm a freelancer and with Joomla since 2005. I've been the leader of the automated testing team. I've also been the release lead of Joomla 1.6, and I've been working on lots of different areas in Joomla, like the continuous integration system we have right now, the routing, smart search, the admin template, the new command line installation setup that's coming in Joomla 4.3, and improvements to the text system. I've been touching a lot of areas. But today we want to talk about quality. What is good quality? First of all, we want to meet the expectations of our users. We want to promise them something, and then deliver on that. And most importantly, we want to do this consistently over time. The big danger in development is that at one point we do a refactoring, add a new feature, and that's breaking other stuff. So this being consistent over time is really important to get confidence from the people. So let me show you the general process for changes in the Joomla content management system. I'm starting at the point where somebody has some code and wants to add that to Joomla. At that point, they create a pull request and wait for the automated checks to pass. Then they need 2 people to test the changes successfully. And then the maintainers, specifically the release leads for the targeted release, have to review the code and then merge it. Of course, in each of those steps, we could have iterations, code changes, requests for changed functionality and all that stuff. So this would be the ideal process or ideal flow if you have probably a small change. Today we are talking about the automated part of this stuff that's there to reduce the load for the release leads, for the developer who's proposing the code change, and which is trying to keep up the high quality that we are expecting in Joomla and in our code in general. The process is, or the automated checks are done like the following. The first step is we want to check each change we do. So every change we propose, every commit we do, we want to check that if it's still working. And the way we do that is using pull requests and not committing directly to a branch and yeah, hoping that everything's working. So our branches, our GitHub is always in a stable condition, and we never have to fear that the system is not in a state where we can release on a whim's notice. On every change, we run a build in a continuous integration system. This means that the moment we push something to our GitHub repository, we ping our continuous integration system. In the case of Joomla, that's Drone CI, which we are hosting ourselves. And that is running a series of automated build steps, which are configured by each branch separately. If you want to do something like this on your own system, there are alternatives like GitHub Actions, hosting your own GitLab instance, or services like Travis. Although I have to say that Travis did bite us a little bit in the past, because they stopped their open source program, and we had to migrate all our previous CI setups over from Travis to Drone, which was quite some work. And if you want to see such a build could look like this, so you see the pull request at the top that we are processing to which branch it's aimed. You see the title of the change that we want to see. And then the CI system clones the changes into a local folder, starts a few services, and then runs the different steps. As you can see, we have Composer, we have PHP CS, which is codestyle. We've got unit tests and all that in the system. And I'm going to go into depth now. And when you're in GitHub and the tests fail, like in this case, you can see there's a message in each pull request. Okay, the builds are failing, or the builds have passed. You don't have to look in the respective build system. as you can see here, we also have app layer, which is used to run all those tests, not only on a Linux system, but also on Windows. The second step after using pull requests and a continuous integration system is, first of all, make your code readable. Joomla has adopted a code style quite some time ago. We started enforcing the code style automatically in Joomla 3, I think. Lately we did switch code styles. The big benefit of a code style is that the code is easier to read. And especially for people who didn't write the code, it's also easier to understand. Last but not least, it's preventing hidden bugs, hidden code. Like, for example, you could write several commands in one line, and that could really, the commands later in the line could be hidden for you, or if you do a code review, and you could read over them and miss that these are there, and so you're missing the actual bug. So making your code readable is a really big starting point. Joomla has been rolling its own code style since, I think, last year. And yeah, that might not have been the best solution, which is why we decided to switch to PSR 12, which is a PHP standard code style, which is an industry standard, and we thought, let's not make it more difficult than necessary. We are standardizing on what everybody else is using. Besides tools like PHP-CF, there are also tools to automatically format your code according to that code style. That's PHP-CBF and PHP Code Sniffer. In general, if you are interested in this stuff, I could just point you to the GitHub repository of Joomla, where we have all of this set up, and most of the stuff you can really copy over to your own systems one by one. As an example, how this could look in our continuous integration system in Drone CI, we do have a check for the code style, and this would be a screenshot from that where everything passes. And if there is an error and we need to fix something, that would be the output, how this should be changed. For example, you can see in this case the brackets for the function call here should be on a new line, and in other cases it's reporting wrong indentations, different code styles for error usage. It can also be used to show you deprecated code, or sometimes unreachable code, which all of these checks could hint you at and prevent you from committing outdated stuff. The third step is something that probably most of you heard about, but it's difficult to write good tests. But we want to test our code in units, unit tests. This means that we take single methods in or single functions in our system and write code which calls this code. and tests that the result we are expecting is also what is returned by that function. We can test methods and whole classes. Joomla is also splitting this up into both unit tests and integration tests. So the moment we use something like a database in the code, it would be an integration test, or if we are using a caching system like Memcache, it's would be part of the integration test suite. In Joomla, we are using PHP unit. If you're using other languages, you would use different test frameworks, but in the PHP world, PHP unit is basically the king. This would also be possible to run in our CI system. You see we have one skip test here in our current test suite, but otherwise Joomla is passing. But as you can also see, the number of tests we have is something that we still have to extend on. In any case, the unit tests did bring up some issues in even core Joomla code. For example, in the table class, we found a nasty bug with a bind feature, which has been discovered by using unit tests here. The next step would be to test our whole application in a browser. It's very tedious to go through all the steps to update or to set up a new Joomla site with all the testing data and testing all the different features we have, like creating a user, writing an article, maybe using the search feature and all that stuff. But even starting with the installation, that always takes several minutes for a human user to do. In our CI setup, we do have like these system tests, which test the whole system on different PHP versions, like an end user would use them. It's installing the system, it's creating a user, it's creating articles, and in the future we want to actually test nearly all features of Joomla with this to see bugs early on. We've been using a codeception in the past, which was kind of difficult to use, since codeception did have issues handling stuff like the DOM ready event in the browser, and took quite a lot of additional knowledge to write stable tests, which didn't create false negative test results, or false positive test results. Last year, we did switch over to Cypress, a JavaScript or a node-based testing framework, system testing framework, which is a change for a PHP developer like myself, but which has been a lot easier to handle and to write tests for than for codeception. In general, you can run the tests in all major browsers with this. Right now we are using Firefox for Joomla because we love open source. But there's no limitation for this. You can also use Chrome, Edge, Opera, or Safari. They even have a built-in browser which isn't as feature complete as the end user ones, but for some scenarios it works fine. This would be a screenshot of a failed test. Actually, this test we are still working on the stability a little bit. This should have worked fine, but you can see the system or the testing system has a complete rendering of the website on the right side. And you can even look at the system filling out all the fields and clicking the buttons. And on the left side, you see what it's currently doing. As you can see, it's been calling the fields component, adding a new field for the articles, fills out the title field, and then directly clicks on the save button. But since the page didn't reload, we are failing this test. Now that we are at the point where all our code is readable and where we can test all changes to our code and make sure that nothing breaks, we also want to make sure that our libraries are up to date. Nobody is living on an island. We are all using some third-party code that also needs updates, and Joomla has introduced Composer partially in Joomla 3. At the end of the lifetime of Joomla 3, we started using Composer for the few dependencies we used in Joomla 3, but we still committed those dependencies to our GitHub repository. In Joomla 4, we started with basically a clean slate. Every dependency is loaded from the dependencies website each time, or from the package repository where you can find the code. And the libraries are thus kept up to date more often. We can check easily if there are updates, yeah, we are not polluting our own repository with dozens of copies of some class or some package library, which we rarely update. So we are rather checking each time we're doing a release if there is a necessary update. Joomla is checking for security updates on each release, but we tend to only update general new dependency releases on a minor or major version. So Joomla 4.3, for example, will get updated dependencies, but 4.3.1 only if those dependencies included a security fix. If you don't have experience with these in PHP, the package managers to handle those dependencies is the Composer manager with the packagist website where you can find all the packages available to Composer. For JavaScript or Node.js, we're using NPM. Both are industry standard, and for Composer you can find the list of dependencies in Composer.json. And in there we are only defining the minimum version we require for this library, while when you're installing all the dependencies, you have a separate file, the Composer log file, where you ensure that the different versions we are using at that point with the different requirements among each other are locked to a state where they are working together. Because if we are updating one dependency which we are using, and a second dependency is requiring an older version, we would have a conflict, and that one is then shown when updating the Composer log file. This would be an example of running Composer update to update some of the libraries we are using right now. I'm currently in the process of updating the dependencies for Joomla 5.0. We're going to reduce the number of dependencies in Joomla 5.0 quite a bit. And of course, by requiring PHP 8.1 for Joomla 5, this also means we need to update several dependencies which are currently not PHP 8 upwards compatible. And now we're at probably one of the most interesting parts for me. Now that we have all this tested, our code is readable, and we have third-party dependencies in a easily manageable state. We are at step 6, and we can do some static code analysis. This means we have a program, static code analyzer, which goes through our PHP code and then checks for the right return types. Is the code maybe deprecated? Is there a method call that's not existing? Is there a part of code that's impossible to reach, for example, because the if statement is impossible? This you can find with a static code analyzer. Often enough, it's going to only report you that your doc blocks for your methods, your method documentation is not current and needs some updating or fine-tuning. But even that would help you quite a bit, because in the end it means you can generate better documentation. And for example, your IDE could better understand your own code and provide you better type hinting, show you errors when you're writing new code. And we've been using Fan and PHP Stan in the last few months to check the Joomla code base. We're from the CMS, we're at the start of fixing all of the issues which came up there. We started, in the Joomla framework, we've been a little bit further down the road, and actually did fix most of the issues that both these static code analyzers did show us. You have to say that they are not checking for the same code both, so it's actually good to run both at the same time and see what results you get. Here is a little example. So PHP Stan reported there is a check in our URL filter, which is always going to evaluate to false. And looking at the actual code, you can see in line 65, the element type was supposed to be compared against the string URL. So we wanted to check if the URL filter is acting on an element, a field of type URL. We wanted to, in this specific example, we wanted to check if it's not a URL field. And the developer who wrote this put an exclamation mark in the front and thought, okay, this is going to work out. But it turns out that instead of checking that the field is not of type URL, this is negating the string we're checking against. So instead of checking or comparing two strings, we are now comparing a Boolean against a URL, which is going to always be false. And this is the sort of bugs that PHP Stan and the fan code analyzer is going to find for you. And I really want to encourage everyone who's writing code for Joomla to use tools like this. They really will help you create better, more stable code. Another example would be what Fan has been throwing at us. We've got some, this is from the Joomla framework, from our dependency injection package. And it turns out that we're using code in there which isn't supported anymore in PHP 8.2. So we will have to refactor these two functions to something which is still supported. But right now, this code is broken because PHP 8.2 updated their system, their reflection system. Actually, these two methods moved to a different class, and it's going to be fixed in hopefully Joomla 4.4. Let's see. In general, what are the results of what we've been doing here? We've been trying to prevent regressions in new releases. We want to stop breaking stuff when we are doing changes. We want to make sure that your whole website is still working after you've done the last update. We are trying to discover and fix hidden bugs like the one I showed you just a few minutes earlier. And we want to make coding for yourself and for others easier. We want to make sure that your IDE can show you the best hints and give you the best help possible, so that you don't have to look up each method that you're using yourself all the time. And last but not least, Joomla is moving forwards. Some stuff we have to we will have to break. We will have to deprecate in the future, because we are dropping PHP 7 support, because we are going to use newer dependencies, or because we are going to refactor stuff like tags in Joomla 6, for example. And in those cases, having readable code, having tested code, having the code checkers, which I showed earlier, makes refactoring all of this a lot easier, and will increase your productivity by a lot. For example, there's one tool that we are trying to use for Joomla 5 and onwards, which should help you refactoring your code a lot faster. That's Rector. It's a tool where you can use ready-made rules to convert from one code block to something else, to updated code. And we are still working on implementing that, but I'm really looking forward to this. So if your code is in order and easy to read, easy to test, then it should be also easy to apply these Rector rules to your code and automatically update most of the changes Joomla is doing on your code for you. This would be basically the end from my presentation. I'm a bit fast, but are there any questions? I'm looking over at the team. Do you have any questions that we need to discuss?
Thank you, Hayes. So let me just quickly connect with the team and see if there are any questions that have come up over the live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are no questions on the live
All
chat.
right. So let's do one thing. Let's wait for a few moments and see if there are any questions that are coming up. Thank you so much, Hayes. By far, I mean, it has been very insightful, understanding, and this will definitely help the developers to improve the quality of the codes. Thank you for the insightful session.
In general, if you want to use something like this in your own setup, and if you're interested in helping us out in Joomla with advancing the development in that area, the automated testing team is always looking for new members, new people who want to help out. We're trying to create a documentation for third-party developers to adopt this to their own work style, and how to use this in extension development. We're looking forward to seeing some of you there.
Great. Definitely.
Any more questions?
I think it's also because of it's nighttime in USA, so there might be a
Yeah,
once this video is live, like it's live right now. Once this video is viewed and we
yeah,
have any more questions, we can have your email ID and shoot the questions to you in one go and have them answered on our social media as well as posted on the YouTube descriptions itself.
yeah. I'm happy to answer whenever, wherever, and whenever I can.
All right. Thank you. That's really kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hans, for the wonderful session.
You're welcome. Okay.
So let's move forward. Uh, Once again, thank you, Aids. Thanks for the wonderful session and joining Joomla Next by Techjoomla and helping us delivering this insightful session on quality improvements.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to our lovely audience for joining in. We really appreciate you taking time today to hear us and be a part of our Joomla Next series every time we bring to you such sessions. Please stay tuned and have a look at our social media. Watch out for the social media handles of Tech Joomla and visit our website to know more about our products and offerings. Thanks a lot. Looking forward for many more sessions and many more events uh, to bring to you. Thank you.